Emma Walker had not felt warm in 2 days. Her body moved only because it refused to die. Emma Whitmore said, hunger made her weak. Fear made her clumsy. Every breath cut sharp in her chest as she pushed through the high pines. Snow clung to her dress and melted into her skin. Her thin boots were soaked, and her feet felt distant, like they no longer belonged to her. She told herself to stay awake, to keep moving, but her thoughts drifted like loose snow in the wind. Then she heard footsteps. They were heavy and slow, not the light steps of an animal, not the soft whisper of the storm. These were steady and sure. Someone was moving through the trees toward her. Emma tried to stand straighter. Her legs failed. She stumbled and caught herself on a low branch, her hands shaking so badly she could not hold on. Her heart pounded so hard she tasted metal in her mouth. A lone woman on a frozen mountain had no good reason to meet another human. Fear wrapped tight around her chest. The storm rolled across the iron-backed mountains with a bite that felt personal. Snow swept sideways across the ridge, stinging her face. Emma pushed forward through the undergrowth, every step heavier than the last. Her dress was torn at the hem. Her fingers ached, then went numb, and that scared her more than the pain. Behind her was Ridgefield. Behind her was the life she had escaped. A marriage that had drained every hope she once carried. The whispers, the shame. The cold looks from people who pretended to be kind. She had left all of it behind. Now the mountain itself seemed to ask what she had left to give. Emma's breath came in short clouds. Her lips cracked when she tried to whisper a prayer. She leaned against a fallen spruce, resting her weight on the rough bark. Her knees trembled beneath her skirt. Her small bundle of food was almost gone, and her strength went with it. The wind roared through the branches like a living thing. Then she heard it again. Crunch, crunch. Someone was close. At first she thought of wolves, then bears. Old stories from childhood rushed back, sharp and useless. But no animal walked like this. These steps were controlled, heavy enough to sink deep into the snow, careful enough to place each foot with purpose. Emma tried to rise. Her hands slipped. Snow stung her eyes. Fear pressed down harder than the storm. A shadow moved between the trees. A man stepped out of the swirling white. He was tall and broad, wrapped in furs and buckskin. Snow clung to his beard and dark hair. His shoulders looked wide enough to carry the weight of the world. A rifle rested across his back, and his pack was worn smooth from years of use. His boots sank deep into the snow with each step, but it was his eyes she noticed first. Blue, clear, watchful, not cruel, not warm either. Just steady. He stopped a few feet from her, as if giving her space to breathe. "You're in trouble, ma'am," he said. His voice was rough, like it had not been used much, but it was calm. The kind of calm that did not rush or threaten. "The storm's turning bad," he continued. "You stay here much longer. You won't last an hour." Emma tried to answer. Her throat burned. The sound that came out was thin and broken. She tried again, but the words froze before they formed. The man crouched beside her, studying her face. His gaze passed over every bruise, every cut, every tremble in her hands. He did not touch her. Not yet. He seemed to think before he acted. "You walked far," he said. "Too far for someone dressed like that. Tell me your name." Her lips barely moved. "Emma," she whispered. He nodded once, as if that was enough. "My name's Luke Barron," he said. "My cabin's close. I'll take you there." Emma shook her head weakly. Pride or fear pushed the refusal out of her. Maybe both. "I don't know you," she managed. Luke lowered his eyes for a moment, then lifted them again. "You don't have to trust me, but if you stay here, the cold will kill you. I'm not leaving you for the wolves." Another gust of wind hit, blinding her with snow. She coughed, and her strength slipped again. The mountain tilted. Luke made the decision for her. With one steady motion, he slid his arms beneath her and lifted her as if she weighed nothing. His chest was warm through the thick furs. His hold was firm but careful, like he feared she might break. Emma's head fell against him. She hated how weak she felt, hated how good it felt to be held. even by a stranger. Luke moved through the storm with sure steps. Trees blurred past, white wind and dark trunks spun together. She drifted in and out of awareness, aware only of his steady heartbeat beneath her cheek. A small cabin appeared ahead, half buried in snow. Smoke curled from the chimney like a promise of life. Luke pushed the door open with his shoulder and carried her inside. Warmth rushed over her skin all at once. Firelight flickered across log walls. He knelt and laid her on a bed covered with thick pelts. Her body shook, the cold fighting the heat. "Rest," Luke said quietly. "You're safe in here." She wanted to believe him, but fear of men had lived in her too long. Darkness closed in, and before it took her, one thought remained clear. Why would a man who lived alone on a mountain choose to save her? Warmth moved slowly through Emma's body, like sunlight creeping across a winter floor. She lay very still, afraid that if she moved, the cold would return. The crackle of a fire reached her ears, then the muted howl of wind outside, softened by thick walls. The smell of wood smoke and pine filled the air. She opened her eyes. Rough-hewn logs formed the ceiling above her. Firelight danced along the walls. The room was small and quiet, but warm enough to make her eyes sting with sudden relief. Then she saw him. Luke sat near the hearth, working on a metal trap with slow, careful hands. His shoulders filled the chair. His beard caught the glow of the fire. He looked younger than she had expected, tired, weathered, but not old. He had not noticed she was awake. Emma watched him, unsure why her heart began to beat faster. Maybe fear, maybe something else. The floor creaked when she shifted. Luke looked up at once. "You're awake," he said. There was no surprise in his voice, only quiet relief. She tried to sit up. The room tilted. Luke crossed the space in 2 strides and steadied her with one hand under her back. His touch was gentle, almost careful. "Easy," he murmured. "Your body's still catching up. You've been asleep near a day," he said. "Cold had its teeth in you." A day. Emma looked down at her hands. They were clean and wrapped with cloth. She had not done that. "Thank you," she whispered. Luke shrugged, uncomfortable. "Storm would have killed you." He brought her a wooden bowl, steam curling from it. "Broth," he said. "Venison. It'll help." Her hands trembled. Luke set one large hand beneath hers until she had her grip. The warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in days, Emma felt something she had nearly forgotten: safety. But as she swallowed the broth and watched the quiet mountain man by the fire, another thought stirred. If someone had followed her into the storm, this cabin might not stay safe for long, and Luke Barron might be the only thing standing between her and whatever waited outside. Morning light slipped through the cracks in the cabin walls, pale and thin like a promise that did not yet feel real. Emma woke slowly, wrapped in warmth she did not remember earning. Her body ached, but not with the sharp pain of the mountain. This ache was different. It was the soreness of a body that had survived and was now trying to remember how to live. The fire still burned low in the hearth. Luke was already awake. He stood near the table, sleeves pushed to his elbows, rolling dough with steady hands. His movements were quiet and practiced, like a man who had spent many mornings alone. The smell of warm bread filled the cabin, soft and comforting. Emma watched him for a moment before speaking.
"You cook." Luke did not look up.
"A man has to eat." She smiled faintly, then pushed herself upright. The blanket slipped from her shoulders, and she pulled it back around herself. "How long was I asleep?" "Long enough," he said. Storm eased some, but it's still rough out there. Emma glanced at the small window. Snow pressed thick against the glass, glowing white in the morning light. "I feel stronger," she said, surprised by her own voice. Luke nodded but did not turn. "Stronger isn't the same as ready." She stood anyway. Her legs wobbled. Before she could fall, Luke was there, his hand steady at her elbow. "You're stubborn," he said. She breathed out a weak laugh. "I've been called worse." He helped her into a chair near the table and set a plate before her. Biscuits, warm and soft, and a small slice of smoked meat. Emma stared at the food, her throat tightening. "You need it," Luke said quietly. "Your body's been pushed too far." She ate slowly. Each bite felt like it woke something inside her that had been asleep a long time. Luke sat across from her, not staring, just watching to be sure she managed. "I'm Emma Walker," she said after a moment. He nodded. "Luke Barron." The wind rattled the cabin walls, but the sound felt distant now. After breakfast, Luke cleaned the dishes while Emma watched him move through the small space. Everything had a place. Tools lined the walls. Furs hung neatly from pegs. Nothing here felt careless or cruel. "You live alone," she said. 8 years, he replied. After the war, the mountain made more sense than people. She understood that more than she wanted to admit. Luke checked the door latch, then the window. His eyes lingered on the trees beyond the glass. "You said you came from Ridgefield." Emma stiffened. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "I left," she said. "I had nothing left there." He did not push. "You don't have to explain." "I want to," she said softly. "My husband died a month ago. He left debts. People blamed me, said I should leave before worse happened." Luke's jaw tightened. Towns can be cruel when fear gets hold of them. Emma nodded. "I thought if I kept walking I'd find somewhere quiet." "You found a blizzard," he said. "And you," she answered. Silence settled between them, not heavy, but careful. A sudden sound cut through the quiet. Crunch. Luke froze. Another crunch followed, faint but clear. Emma's heart jumped. What was that? Luke moved without speaking, reaching for the rifle by the wall. His body shifted slightly in front of her, blocking her view of the door. "Get inside the bed area," he said low. "Now." She obeyed, retreating toward the hearth as he moved to the window. Snow swirled thick outside, but Luke's eyes narrowed. Another sound came, sharper this time, a muffled voice, then silence. Emma's hands shook. "Is someone out there?" Luke did not answer right away. He checked the latch again, then barred the door. "Could be a traveler," he said finally. "Could be someone who followed you." Her chest tightened. "I didn't mean to bring trouble." He turned to her then. "You didn't bring it. Trouble chooses its own path." The fire crackled between them. That night, Luke kept watch. Emma lay on the bed, eyes open, listening to the wind and the faint creaks of the cabin. Luke sat near the hearth, rifle across his lap, his shape steady in the firelight. "Luke," she whispered, "I'm here. What if they come back? Then they meet me first." His calm scared her and comforted her all at once. Sleep came in pieces. Each time she woke, Luke was still there, still watching. Near dawn, the storm eased. Luke stepped outside to check the ground. Emma waited, her breath held, until he returned. "Tracks," he said. One set, didn't come closer. Relief washed through her, followed by fear that lingered like a shadow. The day passed in quiet work. Emma folded blankets. Luke sharpened tools. The danger outside did not vanish, but it stayed at a distance, like something waiting. By afternoon, Emma felt strong enough to step outside. Luke stayed close as she breathed in the cold air. Snow glittered under the pale sun. "It's beautiful," she said. "The mountain has two faces," Luke replied. "You met both." As they walked back toward the cabin, Emma slipped. Luke caught her, his hand firm at her waist. For a moment, neither moved. She looked up at him. His eyes held hers, steady and unsure all at once. Then he stepped back, clearing his throat. "We should go inside." That night the wind returned, but softer this time. Emma lay awake, aware of Luke's presence nearby, of the quiet strength that filled the cabin. She had run from one life into the arms of a stranger, and somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The next morning came quiet and clear. Sunlight spilled over the snow-covered ridge, turning the world bright enough to hurt the eyes. The storm had passed, but its memory still hung in the cold air. Emma stood near the window, watching her breath fog the glass. For the first time since she had left Ridgefield, she did not feel the urge to keep moving. The mountain no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a place that was waiting. Luke stepped outside to check the clearing. Emma followed a moment later, pulling her coat tight. The snow was deep but calm, untouched except for their tracks. "They're gone," Luke said, scanning the ridge. If someone was watching, they moved on. Emma let out a breath she did not realize she had been holding. "Does that mean I'm safe?" Luke turned to her. "It means today is safe. Tomorrow we handle when it comes." They worked together through the morning. Emma carried smaller logs while Luke split wood. Her body still tired easily, but she felt stronger with every step. Luke never rushed her, never corrected her, just stayed close enough to catch her if she faltered. After the work was done, they sat inside near the fire. The quiet felt different now. Not careful, not afraid, just still. "Luke," Emma said softly, "why did you really help me?" He looked at the fire for a long moment. "I saw someone who was done being hurt," he said, "and I knew that feeling." She studied his face. The lines there told of hard years and quiet choices. "You don't talk about your past." "There's not much worth telling," he said. "I left people because I didn't know how to live among them anymore." Emma nodded. "I left because people decided who I was without asking." Their eyes met. Something shifted then. Not sudden, not loud, just a steady pull neither could ignore. That afternoon, Emma walked farther than she had since arriving. Luke stayed at her side as they followed a narrow trail above the cabin. The world was silent, except for the crunch of snow beneath their boots. She slipped again, and this time Luke's arm wrapped fully around her, pulling her close. His grip was strong, protective, certain. She did not pull away. Instead, she rested her hand against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. It felt like home in a way she could not explain. "Luke," she whispered. He looked down at her. "Tell me to let go." She shook her head. His arms tightened, careful but sure, wrapping around her completely. The mountain wind brushed past them, cold and sharp, but she felt only warmth. For the first time in her life, Emma cried without fear, not from pain, but from relief, from the simple truth of being held by someone who asked nothing in return. Luke did not speak. He just held her, letting her tears soak into his coat. That night they sat together by the fire. Emma spoke of Ridgefield, of the loneliness, of the fear she carried every day. Luke listened without judgment. "I don't want to run anymore," she said quietly. "I don't know what comes next. I only know I don't want to face it alone." Luke stared into the flames. "I don't know how to promise easy," he said, "but I know how to stay." She smiled through tired eyes. "That's enough." Days passed. The mountains settled into a calm rhythm. Emma helped around the cabin. She learned where Luke kept his tools, how he stored food, how he read the weather by the sky and the trees. Luke watched her grow stronger, watched color return to her face, watched laughter come easier. One evening, as snow fell softly outside, Emma stood beside him at the door. "Luke," she said, "if I stay, I want to stay fully. Not as a guest, not as someone hiding." He met her gaze. "Then you stay as my equal." She stepped closer. "And if trouble finds us again?" Luke wrapped his arms around her, firm and sure. "Then we face it together." She leaned into him, her head against his chest, her fears finally quiet. The mountain wind howled outside, but inside the cabin there was only warmth. Emma Walker had come to the mountain with nothing left to lose. What she found was a man who did not try to own her, save her, or change her. He simply held her when the world grew too cold. And for the first time in her life, that was enough.